U.S. multi-billion-dollar laser aircraft carrier is ready to destroy China. For the first time in more than 40 years, the United States Navy has launched a new, first-of-its-kind supercarrier named after America's 38th president, Gerald R. Ford. Is this the weapon the U.S. has been looking for to defeat China? Will it be capable, or will the United States lose the hypersonic arms race to China? Join us as we explore deeper into this topic. On September 10, 2008, the U.S. Navy gave Northrop Grumman Shipbuilding in Newport News, Virginia, a $5.1 billion contract to design and build the carrier. Under a $2.7 billion contract, Northrop began building the carrier's main parts in 2005. The carrier was built in Newport News, Virginia, at the Huntington Ingalls Newport News Shipbuilding facility where 19,000 people work. On November 14, 2009, in Dry Dock 12, Ford's daughter, Susan Ford Bales, took part in a ceremony to lay the keel of the new warship. The ship's sponsor and its first captain, John F. Meyer, worked together to make the ship's crest. In August 2011, it was said that the ship was halfway done structurally. In April 2012, it was said that 75% of the building was done. When the important lower bow was lifted into place in May 2012, the ship was finished up to the waterline. And this was a big step forward. This was the 390th time that one of the nearly 500 lifts of the modular parts that make up the ship was done. In a press release from November 8th, Huntington Ingalls said that the ship was 87% structurally complete, and by December, 90% of the ship structure was done. 446 of the nearly 500 structural lifts that were needed to finish the ship have been done. In January of 2013, the island was put down and a ceremony was held to mark the event, while later in May, the last of the ship's 162 super lifts were put into place. This made the ship's structure 100% done. On July 11, 2013, a time capsule was welded into a small room just above the floor. This was a Navy tradition that had been going on for a long time. Susan Ford Bales, the daughter of President Ford, chose the items for the time capsule. They included sandstone from the White House, Navy coins, and the aviator wings of the ship's first commanding officer. At first, the ship was set to be built in July 2013 and delivered in 2015, but because of production delays, the ship couldn't be delivered until February 2016. As of 2013, construction costs were estimated to be $12.8 billion, which was 22% more than the 2008 budget. Research and development costs were also estimated to be $4.7 billion. Admiral Jonathan Greenert, who is in charge of the Navy's budget, said that there could be a 2-year delay in finishing Gerald R. Ford after 2016. The GAO said that the price cap would be met if the Navy agreed to pay that much for an unfinished ship. On September 23, 2015, the Navy said that the testing delays of a few weeks would probably push the delivery date back to April or maybe May of 2016. Due to problems with the nuclear propulsion system and munitions elevators, the cost of building Gerald R. Ford had reached $13.027 billion by March 2018. This made it the most expensive warship ever built. The Navy now has to wait until October 2019 to get what they had planned to get in March. The Gerald R. Ford is supposed to be the first in a new class of aircraft carriers that are much better than the Nimitz class. The Gerald R. Ford has an AN Spy-3 and an AN Spy-4 active, electronically scanned array multifunction, multiband radar, as well as an island that is shorter in length and 20 feet taller than that of the Nimitz class. It is also set 140 feet farther back and 3 feet closer to the edge of the ship. The electromagnetic aircraft launch system will take the place of a traditional steam catapults to launch all carrier aircraft that can't take off and land vertically. This new technology gets rid of the old need to make and store steam, which frees up a lot of space below deck. Gerald R. Ford can launch 25% more planes per day with the EMALS than with the Nimitz class, which needs 25% fewer crew members. Over its 50-year life, the Navy thinks it'll save $4 billion in operating costs. In a webcast ceremony at the Newport News, Virginia shipyard where Gerald R. Ford is being built, the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Jonathan Greenert, said, "She is truly a technological marvel. She will carry unmanned aircraft, joint strike fighters, and she will deploy lasers," he said. During the test at the Pentagon, these performance improvements caused problems, but the final software fixes for some of the problems won't be ready until 2019, after the ship is done with its shakedown. In January 2014, the annual report from the Director, Operational Test and Evaluation said that the EMALS, the Advanced Arresting Gear, and the dual-band radar and weapons elevators were not reliable enough in lab and test environments and needed more testing and improvements. Before putting the systems on the aircraft carrier, the Navy did a lot of testing to make sure there were no problems with how they worked. In June 2016, it was found that the main turbine generators were having a lot of trouble. The fix, which needed changes to the design, was put in place and checked during acceptance trials in May 2017. In April 2017, the initial operational test and evaluation goal was met. On April 8, 2017, Gerald R. Ford left port for the first time under its own power as part of the builder's trials. Gerald R. Ford went through the shock trial's third and final blast. In 2018, the Navy asked that shock tests be put off for at least 6 years so that the ship could be sent out to sea faster. On June 18, 2021, 87 nautical miles off the coast of Ponce Inlet, Florida, the Gerald R. Ford went through her first full ship's shock trial. This was done to make sure the ship could handle battle conditions. The explosion of 40,000 pounds of TNT underwater was measured by the USGS as an earthquake with a magnitude of 3.9. On May 31, 2017, Newport News Shipbuilding gave Gerald R. Ford to the U.S. Navy and changed her status to Special in service. Gerald R. Ford was officially made a member of the U.S. Navy on July 22, 2017. So how is the USS Gerald Ford better than Chinese aircraft? Let's understand this by comparison with China's Fujian aircraft carrier. The Type 003 aircraft carrier called Fujian is a Chinese ship that is being made for the People's Liberation Army Navy of China. When it is all set up, it will be the PLAN's third and most advanced carrier to date, and it is named after the Chinese province of Fujian. Fujian was officially launched on June 17, 2022. She is China's first aircraft carrier with a design made entirely in China. She has a catapult-assisted takeoff barrier arrested recovery or CATO bar system and electromagnetic catapults. All of this is very interesting, but what do we know about how she was made? As far as can be told, the Type 003 uses a combination of electromagnetic and steam turbine catapults to launch aircraft. This is a big improvement over earlier Chinese carriers which use ski jumps and makes her more like NATO carriers. There isn't much information about how she moves through the water, but it has been said that she uses integrated electric propulsion. The ship's expected to be bigger than 80,000 tons, which puts it between the unfinished Soviet aircraft carrier Ulyanovsk, which weighed 85,000 tons, and the supercarriers used by the U.S. Navy, which weigh 100,000 tons. The Type 003 is about 984 feet long, according to rough measurements. There are no official measurements, though, and if this is true, she is just a little bit smaller than the U.S. Navy ships in the Gerald R. Ford class. Her flight deck's also thought to be about 76 meters long. Analyst Robert Farley says that when Type 003 is finished, it will be the largest and most advanced aircraft carrier ever built outside the United States. But a plane carrier isn't worth much without planes. Experts think that the carrier's air wing will be bigger than those of her other PLAN sisters. Most likely, these will be the Xinjiang J-15 fighters from China. The Xinjiang Aircraft Corporation and the 601 Institute made these all-weather, twin-jet, carrier-based fourth-generation multi-role fighter aircraft for the People's Liberation Army Naval Air Force. They are also called Flying Sharks. The fighter is said to be loosely based on the Russian Su-33. It has Xinjiang J-11B avionics and Chinese technology. We don't know for sure, but a defense analyst named Kyle Mizukami thinks that the carrier will fly a group of 40 fighter planes. She would also have airborne early warning and control aircraft and transports with propellers. This is partly shown by the fact that test flights for the KJ-600 AEW&C aircraft based on a carrier began in 2020. So what can be concluded? Even though it's tempting to think that American and Chinese carriers are the same, it's not always possible. The first is that both countries will keep the most important information about their naval assets secret, so we can't be sure what each ship can do. The second and most important thing is that they only look alike on the surface. Both have flat tops, but they do different things. Because of this, the overall design and capabilities are made with these roles in mind. So you might think that American carriers would be better at being alone than Chinese ones. But until and unless the two naval forces actually fight each other, we won't know which one will do better. This is especially true as drones and hypersonic weapons get better. So, we've reached the end of today's video, but no worries. If you want to stay up to date to the latest war developments, make sure that you shoot that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.